Welcome, everyone. Let's get started. Here it comes from the not yet famous Blumira studio in Ann Arbor, Michigan. The Price is Right. Please welcome our host, Blumira's Bob Barker, Nato Riley.
And welcome, everyone. Welcome to the show. My name is Nato Riley, and we're going to be testing our contestants' SIM knowledge today, because that's what we're going to be doing. So if you've ever purchased a SIM, you know that calculating the cost is not necessarily so straightforward. It's pretty complex stuff. So prior to joining Blumira, I worked with all kinds of SIM technologies. If it's a SIM and it's out there and has been in the market for a while, I've probably used it or deployed it or anything worked at the company or something. So before we get started, we're going to have a few housekeeping items to make sure that everyone's experience is going to be as good as possible. So we're going to choose 4 lucky contestants and effectively provide some prizes. So we're going to be giving away some gift cards. We're going to be giving away some things that you can buy stuff with, because the price is right, and we're going to make this a fun time. So the TV version of The Price is Right, the audience members shout out their guesses. We're going to be doing that as well here. So we're going to encourage you to do exactly that and shout out your guesses via the chat. Just make sure that your chat is set to everyone so that everyone can hear and see your guesses rather. So let's go ahead and introduce our lucky contestants. So, contestant number 1, Alex Tan, come on down. So we've got a couple of contestants here. And then contestant number 2 is Jesse Pock. Come on down. We've got 2 more contestants here that we're going to be announcing. So all of you, we're announcing who all is going to be participating. And for contestant 3, Roger Dills, come on down. And finally, for contestant number 4, Tim Batten, come on down. So we're going to give everyone a chance to go ahead and get situated here, because the fun is just about to get started. So just make sure that everyone's feeling ready to go. All right, so all of you are going to be the contestants for the Price is Right Sim edition. As I mentioned before in the chat, just make sure that you have everything set to everyone. Sometimes odd things happen in Zoom, and if someone messages you directly, it might switch to that. So if that happens, not a big deal. So let's go ahead and get started today with the first price up for bid. So the rules of today's Price is Right is going to effectively basically be as close to the television rules as we can get to. And so we're going to, let's see. So that means you can't go a single cent over the real cost. And we're going to basically wish all of you good luck. And the first items, what percentage of SIMs charge extra for the cost of support? Our research for this answer is based off of the G2 SIM category for North America. Whoever guesses the closest to the percentage without going over is going to win. So this is the first question.
Fine.
All right, looks like our answers are rolling in, and the first answer comes in from Gilbert. And so we have a number of answers. So let's go ahead and choose the first contestant to answer. Let's see, I'm just checking the chat real quick.
The contestants should be able to unmute and give their answers verbally.
I'm
saying
going for
90.
80%.
Okay, so we've got a 90%. And let's see what else we've got. So we're going to see who's the closest here, just looking over the chat.
I would go with 100%.
Go for 80%.
All right, so I guess drum roll, please, and we'll see what the real answer is, and we'll see who got the closest. All right, so then the real answer is, we'll see who ended up getting the closest, 64%. So let's see who got closest to 64%. You are going to be the winner, and we're going to bring you on for additional prizes to see if you can basically get the next prize. So you're going to win something. So just one moment while I try to track who's got the closest percentage here. So I know someone said 100%, someone said 90%, someone said a lower percent. Who did anyone catch that?
I did not catch that. Contestants Alex, Jesse, Roger, and Tim, would you mind repeating what your answers were? And we apologize. Try to be honest, please.
Yeah, I'd said 90, but I'd like to revise that to 64.
I got 80%.
Okay, so 80% is the closest we've gotten. So then we're going to go ahead and take the 80%. And which name was that for 80%? So for 80%, so let's go ahead and get into the next question. I'm just trying to catch who was that who called out 80%, just so I could catch your name real quick.
That was Jesse.
Oh, Jesse. Okay, so perfect. So Jesse, go ahead and tell me about yourself and what you do for a living and your experience with Sims.
Yeah, I am the IT manager for a construction company in Northern California. We do civil engineering, build bridges.
Very good. Have you had a positive experience with sim technologies, or how do you feel about effectively working with sim technologies? Is it something that you basically have spent a lot of time with or have a lot of experience with, or is that something that you enjoy doing, or has it been something that's been a little frustrating?
A little bit frustrating, and yes, the price bloat is definitely something that is kind of made us shy away from really circling back and taking a look at an effective solution.
Fair enough. And what would you say, to your experience, has been one of the sort of more surprising costs that you usually run into when you're working with the sim technology that's sometimes a little hard to, like, perhaps hardest to budget for, to your experience?
You know, anything that balloons is hard to budget for, especially if you're running a very slimmed down IT budget. So yeah.
Definitely, that makes sense. So you have won a $25 gift card for basically being the first to guess closest to our first question. So let's go ahead and get into another question that we're going to have for you. So since this is a pricing game, we're going to play a game called The Most Expensive. So it's a pretty simple game. We have 4 cost factors involved with traditional sim, and I would like to see if you can guess which is conventionally the most expensive. So the 4 cost factors that we're going to be talking about is professional services, personnel, infrastructure, and hardware. Which would you guess is the most expensive?
And Jesse, you're on the hot spot.
I'm on the hot spot. I'm going to guess professional services.
Drum roll. And the answer is going to be, it's coming up, personnel. So personnel is the answer. So congratulations on winning a gift card. And then you won't get a second gift card. But anyone who guesses more answers correctly just keeps getting more money. But you're on a roll already. Winning is half the battle. So congratulations. And we're going to go ahead and move on to our next bid. And thank you so much for joining this. We will go ahead and reconnect with you because we just want to make sure that you can get your gift card, all those good things. And thank you so much for engaging with this question. So,
Nito, before we move on, can we explain why is personnel so expensive for a traditional SIM?
yes. So that I should explain this. So personnel, when we're talking about SIM technologies, personnel is so expensive because a number of things tend to take time, and SIM technologies tend to be wildly manual. And so regardless of whether or not someone's trying to, set up compliance configurations or just like security triggers, most of that is manually done. So you have to have manual tuning, manual rule building, and then you also have to train the individuals, which then that also costs a lot of money. And so you have certifications like GCIA, you have all kinds of basically monitoring requirements. So basically, then once you build a SIM solution, you then need to have personnel who can monitor and watch and provide 24/7 monitoring and all of that good stuff. And so really it kind of comes down to these individuals then tend to cost a lot. And so oftentimes costs six figures on an annual amount to pay someone who's a little more veteran. And then if someone doesn't quite have as much experience, then maybe they don't necessarily get paid as much, but that can also increase costs in terms of, maybe they're not going to get certain things completed as quickly and might require a lot more training if they're a little greener and need a lot more support. So as a result, personnel tends to be the most expensive category on average. It's for SIM technologies. And so we'll go ahead and start talking about the second bid. So for the second item, we're going to talk about the percentage of SIMs that charge for extra log ingestion data, because that's a thing that happens. And once again, all of this research is from the G2 SIM category for North America. So whoever guesses the closest to the percentage without going over, and this time I'll try to be a little better at catching names, all that good stuff. We have 3 contestants available for this. So we'll see who's going to guess what is the percentage of SIMs that charge for extra log ingestion or charge extra for log ingestion.
Alex, can you put in your answer, please?
Oh, you mean in the chat?
You can tell us just verbally.
Right. Sure, 64%.
And Roger, what's your answer?
I'll say 40.
And Tim, what's your bid? Tim, are you on? All right, looks like we'll have another contestant that we'll call up in place of Tim. Alex Bernstein, come on down.
All right, and then we'll see what the guess is.
All right, Alex, can you put in your bid?
%40. All right, drum roll. Let's see what the closest percentage was. 79%. All right, so let's see. Someone got in the 70%, so that would be
Alex, was that you? They put in 60?
Yeah, I put 63%.
Did
And
anyone put 70?
that might be the closest.
All right, looks like Alex is the winner. Congrats.
Thank
All right,
you.
Alex, you're going to win a gift card. And with that, opens another opportunity to win even more money. So let's go ahead and bring you into the next question and bring you into our game. So congratulations, you're going to win a $25 Amazon gift card. And I would like to know, where do you come from? What do you do? Are you do you work in more of the tech space, management space? What's more your background?
Yeah, I'm a CISO for a payment processor company startup.
Good stuff. And have you had a lot of experience with SIM technologies? And for the most part, would you say that you like working with SIM technologies? If so?
Yes, I have several experience working with SIEM technology. It's not my biggest favorite tool in my stack.
Fair enough. And what are some of the reasons why, what are some of the most painful things that you would say are associated with working with SIM technologies?
The amount of work that you need to ingest data in and then kind of fine tune it to what is desired. And plus the cost is just kind of expensive.
All true things and all very fair reasons to not necessarily find it to be your favorite thing in the tech stack. It's like one of those things. It's one of those things that we need sometimes, but it can be a little complicated. So let's go ahead and get into our next pricing game, in which we are going to play Magic Number. In this game, you're going to have to guess between the average cost of a cloud SIM deployment and the average cost of an on-prem SIM deployment. The cost of cloud SIM is less expensive than on-prem, and that's all I can tell you for now. We'll tell you that much. Now, we don't have the fancy set from the real Price is Right studio, all that good stuff. But we do have slides, and that's what we're going to use. So you'll see a number of flashing numbers on the screen here in just a moment, in increments of 50,000. So choose a number that is between the cost of a cloud and on-prem SIM, as in, if on that there's, whatever price is somewhere in between those prices. And you'll see those numbers go. So basically just say, just tell us to stop when you see a number that you think is somewhere in between the cost of those two different items. Are you ready, or any questions about the question before we go?
No, I'm ready. Fire away.
And 1, 2, and 3, let's go.
$250.
All right, so we have a 250. And so then once this goes, we'll see what the general range was, and we'll see if your guess was correct. And if your guess is correct, you're going to win even more money. And the answer was between 550,000 and 600,000. And so it wasn't the correct answer, but you do get a $25 gift card. And so we will want to go ahead and connect with you after this and just make sure that we can go ahead and get you your gift card so that you can go ahead and receive what you've won. So you can receive your prize.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for joining the session and working with us. And let's go ahead and talk a little bit about how some of these on-prem versus cloud costs work. So why is on-prem SIEM more expensive? Because it's one of those things that can be a little confusing. Well, with on-prem SIEM, you have more hidden costs. And as this shows here, cloud automation is a complicated thing. And on-prem tends to be a little harder to scale. The reasons behind this is if you have, say, an on-prem SIEM, not only do you have to have IT administration, things like that, there are a lot of resources that say if you're using a cloud-based SIEM, there might be other certain types of things that are associated with the management of it, but you don't have to have, say, an IT professional who's going to manage the actual physical infrastructure itself. Sometimes data center space and rack space can cost quite a bit of money, on top of the fact that having to build your own orchestration that's otherwise pre-built into a lot of cloud solutions, that then becomes something that adds a significant amount of overhead. And so on-prem tends to also be harder to scale, because if you are scaling on-prem, then that also does mean having a need to plan out how infrastructure is going to be scaled, including from, do you need to add X amount of, how much storage after X amount of like annual cycles. If we're thinking about like the difference between, say, something that's running in S3 buckets, that can have certain amounts of cost depending on how that's managed and things like that. And like AWS with like cloud data storage, and there are different types of cloud infrastructures, things like that. But if you are dealing with on-prem, scaling the infrastructure then also is time consuming, because it's not just a matter of what the infrastructure costs or what the parts cost, but also the amount of time invested into the construction and development of those resources. And that tends to end up being where a lot of the cost ends up getting sunk into when we're talking about on-prem solutions.
Now, Nato, someone commented and said that on-prem requires more security. Do you agree with that?
Well, that is an interesting statement, because it depends, I would say. In some cases, yes, because if we're dealing with cloud, there are a lot of configurations that are already sort of like forcibly configured a certain way. So if you're using Azure or you're using AWS, then there are a lot of, say, like pre-canned configurations where you don't have to run the risk of having a potential misconfiguration, where perhaps you have even, say, like a RDP tunnel that was open in a location that might have been a temporary thing that you hadn't really thought about. And then that basically opens a little gateway, or there are all kinds of things. Little misconfigurations can happen in on-prem environments. And it does introduce other security risks in that, if you're building security or wherever your infrastructure lives, if that security isn't well poised, then that does mean that like you're victim to the bad USB, or like a shark jack, which is basically a little thing that plugs into an Ethernet port somewhere in your environment, which those can quite literally be like plugged into like an Ethernet port wall jack at a company. I don't know if anyone knows that stuff, but yeah, so there are security risks to on-prem that, if some of these things aren't configured or managed a certain way, it can be complicated. And even if you have, say, like a working desk, someone can come in and unplug your system, plug in like a payload deployment thing, and then just plug it back in, plug your computer back in. There are all kinds of ways that a company can be physically breached. All right, so we'll go ahead and get into our next bid. So we have a couple more contestants, and we are on the third bid. We're going to see how far is the next contestant going to take it. If whoever wins the next one, see if you can win the question after that and win big. Now, the third item up, what percentage of SIEMs charge extra for professional services? That's going to be our question right now. And whoever gets the closest answer, let's go ahead and see what you guys think. So I guess we'll give everyone some time to stew on it, think a little bit, and then shout out your answers when you're feeling ready.
All right, Roger, can you put in your bid, please?
Ah, shoot, I gotta go first. I'll say 80.
80%? All right, how about Alex B? Can you put in your bid, please? All right, Alex B has put in 85% for his bid.
All right, we've got some pretty close answers. So I guess drum roll, we'll see what the answer is. 71%. So I believe, Tim, you're the winner.
That was
Roger.
Roger.
Okay, there we go, Roger. Congratulations, Roger, by the way. Would you be willing to tell me a little bit about what you do, where you come from, and a little bit of your exposure with SIM technologies?
Yeah, I work in higher education. We have a lot of different initiatives going about, of which many different devices have basically a lot of different logs that we have to monitor. In the past, generally, we've had to manually go through and characterize those things with a lot of different summaries to try to make sense of them all. Some providers are good, but they also tend to be very expensive.
Fair enough. With your experience with SIM, have you had enough experience with SIM to know if they're like, what would be, say, the most complex thing you could think of when it comes to SIM, considering it's all kind of complicated already? But what's the thing that's like, okay, that's super complicated, because SIM is super complicated by itself anyways?
Generally putting together reports that draw upon multiple attributes from multiple objects.
Fair enough. And for those listening who might not quite know what that means, because I don't know what all of the listeners' backgrounds are necessarily. When you're working with SIM technologies, one of the core goals is to produce effectively an output that is going to be valuable to a company, and one of those being, say, like reporting. And when it comes to SIM technologies, because it is sort of like one technology that's looking at, as many things in your environment as you can possibly look at, every now and then you have to figure out how to get multiple devices, whether it's, one or two, or even say like 20 different types of unique technologies. You might have to run a report where it's showing something that's going to be meaningful to a company that advises some form of action that's going to be beneficial or valuable. And the journey to sometimes generating those reports, for those who've never done it, can be a very time-consuming journey. And half the time, the reports might not even work the first try, depending on what platform you're using, how you try to configure it. It's a journey. And no matter what we're working with in this general space. So anyways, I thought it was some great insight from everyone who's been chiming in here. So I do have a game for you, because it's time to see if you can win some more money. You already won a $25 gift card. Congratulations. And so the next game is going to be a pretty exciting one. So we are going to play Cliffhanger. That's going to be our next game. So this should be a pretty fun one. We've created our own version of Cliffhanger this time. So it's not going to be, obviously, blow for blow like Price is Right. So we have an exciting version where our Vice President of Operations, Patrick himself, is going to be making a goal to not fall off of this cliff. And so in order to keep Patrick from falling off the cliff, basically, let's see. The way that I'm going to explain this is we've calculated the average cost of the components of the mid-market SIM deployments that you generally see out there on an annual contract, more specifically. And you have 100,000 slush funds, or 100,000 in slush funds. And so for every $1,000 that you're off, the climber is going to go up the hill. So you want to try to guess numbers as precisely based on what I'm going to be talking about, so make them a little more sense in a bit. You have to get close enough on 4 different prices. So I'm going to give out like some items. You have to guess what those items cost, and If you're close enough to the cost of those items, then Patrick won't fall off the cliff and you'll win. So your items are, and I'll just kind of go over like what are the items, and then we'll go one at a time and you can give your guesses. But before you give any guesses, say the items that you'll want to guess associated costs with are hardware, software based on data ingestion packages, and then ongoing support and professional services for deployment. Those are our 4 items. So let's go ahead and get into the game here. So what would be your guess on the cost of SIEM hardware in the mid-market?
I'm going to say 20,000.
All right, so let's see. The answer on this one is 60,000. So that is going to send Patrick moving a little bit, but not too terribly far. So we've still got plenty of room to keep Patrick from making it too far. And then item number 2, let's say software based on data ingestion packages. So data ingestion package software, what would be your guess on what the cost of that might be?
15.
That's a little closer. So the cost is 25,000. So that is 10,000 off. And for item 3, that's going to be guessing the cost of ongoing support.
I'll say 10.
That is spot on. Patrick is safe and still safe. So the final one to see if you can win more money than you've already won. What would you guess the cost for professional services for deployment to be?
I'll say 10 again.
Spot on again. You're good at this. What I will say is congratulations, because you just got more money. And that's the most exciting part. So good work. How did you know all of these answers? You must have worked with SIEM plenty, so you have some.
Oh, I just guessed kind of wildly on the hardware requirement. It depends pretty much on how much you want to store.
Makes sense. Well, you could certainly price out a reasonable cost for a company trying to get a SIEM solution. I can tell you that much. So outstanding. And we'll kind of talk about how some of these general costs work. So once again, you're going to get a $50 gift card, Amazon gift card for getting that. So extra congratulations, because you won the extra prize, which means that you are going to get the full payout on this round. So thanks again and congratulations. And thank you so much for playing.
Thank you.
And so to kind of talk about what Blumira is and kind of what we do, Blumira is effectively, it's a SIEM platform, to be plain about it, of course. But what does Blumira focus on compared to other platforms out there is being able to get you to not have to worry so much about some of these additional hidden costs and some of these other things, where if you're going to work with, say, a platform like Blumira, our goal is to make it so that, you know, whether you're trying to get prepared for detection or compliance or response or any of these different things, instead of charging extra charges and all of these other fees for maybe support or extra development or professional services deployment, we just try to focus on making it as easy to budget as possible, where it says, hey, this is how much you pay, and then that's how much you pay no matter what you need from us, whether you need additional support, whether you need us to help you build additional rules. We don't even make you build the rules yourself. So with other conventional SIEM technologies out there, you usually have to build all of the other rules and so on and so forth. And so one of the things that we provide on our own, on top of other data sources, we allow people to collect and correlate different data sources, whether it's Amazon or Windows or any of these other types of solutions. And then we provide things like honeypots. And we also provide security and reporting dashboards for running a security operations center. And also we have unlimited integrations effectively are available to those who are using the platform. So if you have a company where you're scaling systems, or you just have a lot of systems in your environment, it doesn't matter how many systems that you have. If you need to integrate everything that you're doing from, say, Office 365 to Azure to AWS, you can add as many of any of those integrations as necessary to ensure that your company is getting the monitoring necessary. And then we take all of the heavy lifting so that things like building reporting, things like that, we take a lot of that off of your hands so that we effectively help build and run your SIEM for you, so that you're pretty much not just out there doing it on your own. We are an extension of your security team, is a way that you could think about it. On other SIEM solutions, one of the reasons we're not so manual is because we put people behind the machine. And so while we do a lot of the things other SIEM solutions do, we don't expect you to do the tuning and the manual building all yourself. So we provide direct assistance. We also, we try to make it as easy to budget as possible. So that's a lot of what you get with Blumira. Predictable costs, and that's something that's important to us. So for anyone who is trying to just see what that looks like, it is free to try Blumira. And it's one of those things that if it works well for you and you're finding that it's solving all of your needs, then, you know, it's free to try it. And then if it doesn't work out, then there's that. But you can go ahead and get started with it. And if, you know, if it works out for your needs, then we get you taken care of. So you can go and check out our website at blumira.com. If you go to blumira.com/trial, then that is going to be how you are able to get started.
Thanks so
And
much,
then-
Nato. And we've got 5 more participants that we are going to have win a $10 Starbucks gift card. And those lucky guests are Gilbert M, Wendy L, Daniel D, and Tony T, and Warren N. Congratulations.
Congratulations, everyone. Thank you so much for joining Price is Right. We love giving out prizes. So don't forget to get your threat actors spayed and neutered. Help control the malware population. It's the right thing to do. Thanks for watching The Price is Right SIEM Edition.